Welcome everyone to today's Twitter Space session. These educational AMAs are brought to you by XT. My name is William, head of XT Academy, and of course your AMA host. Just a little bit before we start, just a little bit about XT. Founded in 2018, XT serves more than 7.8 million users, more than 1 million active users, and a total of 40 million users in the whole ecosystem. Right now, we have about 800 tokens available, and that's more than 1,000 trading pairs to trade. So if you have an open account, definitely come by, check it out. We have a whole bunch of new ones every week. So that's something that if you're a trader that you are actually gunning for these new exchanges, these new listings, this is something you definitely want to check out. The exchange does stand out as the world's first social infused exchange due to its innovative integration of social elements into the cryptocurrency trading experience. Unlike traditional exchanges that solely focus on transactions, though, XE does incorporate social features that really enable these users to really engage with each other. And of course, these weekly education AMAs are part of them. Just want to let you know that for those who are not familiar with, XE.com has been rebranded to XT, hence my introduction has mentioned XT, not without the .com part. And this really marks a significant milestone for the whole exchange. The XT really reaffirms its commitment to innovation and excellence, as well as rebranding their new slogan, Gateway to Digital Assets, Highways to Wealth. This really reflects XT's mission to really empower traders globally. The new rebrand exchange also aims to continue serving its community with a dedication and, of course, passion. That said, let's deep dive into today's topic, and that's Bitcoin's new fungible tokens, runes. Now, you're probably wondering, what are rune protocols on Bitcoin? I'm going to give you an analogy. I'm going to give you a whole bunch today because I think that's probably the easier way to understand these new protocols being deployed on Bitcoin. And it's because they can get a little bit technical, a little bit programmy without these analogies. So let's just imagine Bitcoin as a vast and sturdy tree, and it's really deeply rooted in the soil of, say, Web3 industry digital landscape. Now, picture Rune's protocol as a set of finely crafted tools, right? And they're each designed to carve intricate patterns and shapes into this bark on the tree. And just as skilled artisan uses these tools to etch beautiful designs onto the tree's surface, the Runes protocol enables developers to inscribe various types of digital assets directly onto the Bitcoin blockchain. These assets, like colorful leaves adorned on the branches of a tree, in this case, the Bitcoin tree, they add diversity and richness to the whole Bitcoin ecosystem while remaining firmly anchored to the robust infrastructure provided by, of course, Bitcoin. So in my analogy with the tree and leaves, Bitcoin serves as basically the strong and resilient foundation upon which the Rune protocols is built upon. And this really enhances the whole functionality and expanding its utility to really encompass a wide array of digital tokens and assets. So that said, the Rune protocol it really represents a significant advancements in tokenizations on the Bitcoin blockchain. If you kind of compare to Bitcoin last bull market, we did not have a Bitcoin ordinals, and we had a little bit of interesting layer 2 development like stacks. They've been out there, but we didn't have other layer 2 building on Bitcoin. We did not have Core. We did not have what was that new one that just came out just not a few weeks ago. We have competition in the Bitcoin layer 2 infrastructure layer, and now we also have a new different token standards. We have the Bitcoin ordinals, and now we have Rune. So I really do think that the fundamentals has significantly changed and really has put itself almost above and beyond what Ethereum is trying to achieve. But do keep in mind, though, unlike conventional token standards such as BRC20 ordinals, runes operate on a UTXO based model. So let me explain what that means. So that really aligns them with the Bitcoin's existing infrastructure, since Bitcoin runs on a UTXO model, not an account model. So, long story short, for those who are not familiar with UTXO based models, so basically, you melt a coin down every single time you interact with it. When you send a coin to someone, that coin does not exist anymore. You literally like digitally melt it down, and then you'll have like two new coins. One is the amount that you send to whoever you're sending it to, and the other part comes as change back to your wallet. Right? Unlike account model like Ethereum. Those are like basically how your bank account runs. They add and subtract amounts to your wallet, right? So this whole approach, Runes using the UTX-based model, really minimizes the creation of unnecessary UTXOs, which really can congest the whole Bitcoin network and increase transaction fees. Now, through like a series of various protocol messages encoded in what Runes protocols use, we call it the OP return output. Runes basically assigns the tokens to specific UTXOs. This really ensures that they have a really efficient and transparent token transactions. So one of the key features, I think you really have to focus on this part of Runes protocol, is its integration of the OP return key, right? Because this unique function, it's a storage, it's a data storage for Bitcoin, right? So the OP underscore return, this output, all these OP return outputs, they actually they're indispensable, meaning that they don't congest the whole UTXO set, and ultimately this really makes them pretty ideal for storing token information. Like you can also see like Runes tokens, they also transfer through Bitcoin transactions with the OP return outputs, and basically specify the amounts and the destination of these UTXOs, right? This whole approach though, like it really, if you put it in a nutshell, it really streamlines the whole token transfer process, while maintaining, the security and decentralization of the Bitcoin blockchain, right? So what's cool about runes, though, is that it really does introduces a really interesting concept of rune stones, right? And basically this is where the protocol messages are stored in the Bitcoin transaction outputs. These rune stones basically they facilitate like the etching, the minting, the transfer of runes tokens. They basically provide like you or me, any user, with really a straightforward and efficient way to interact with the protocol. So long story short, like overall, in essence, the rune protocols really represents a significant step like forward for tokenization on Bitcoin, because back before we had like Bitcoin ordinals or runes, like tokenization was more of a thing on Ethereum, and especially Lithium there too, because it's a huge industry there and it's really slowly starting to take off. And once you start tokenizing like all these different real world physical assets, or even like intellectual properties, like there's just so much money there involved. And once you are able to actually tokenize these assets using the runes protocol on Bitcoin, I mean, for some people that this is a game changer, because Bitcoin has already been adopted, and you have that stamp of approval by governments, right? So basically, like the rune protocols, it provides a much more simpler, efficient, and a lot more transparent solution when you to create and transfer tokens on, of course, the world's most secure blockchain. So that hopefully you have a better understanding of what rune protocols are on the Bitcoin. Now you're probably wondering, if you might be familiar, but you might be wondering, so what is the difference between the BRC20 ordinals and runes? Now, yeah, this is a little bit tricky. This actually took me some time to really get into that, because there's a different level of analysis. It gives you different answers, right? But I'm going to give you an analogy, because I think analogies all can help us paint a better understanding, a quick understanding between these two differences. So let's just imagine Bitcoin ordinals, which are the BRC21s. They're like a marketplace. They're like really busy marketplace. Lots of people are there trying to buy stuff like, fruits and vegetables and meat and whatever. There's like lots of vendors set up there with their stalls and sell, various goods, right? And each stall they basically represent a unique token. Okay, so someone selling California oranges in one stall, someone selling Wagyu beef from Japan in another stall, someone selling, I don't know, Indian curry in another stall. They're all unique tokens in that respect. Okay, and the customers, they can easily browse through all these different offerings from all the different stalls, right? Because obviously you're at a marketplace. And of course, there's some congestion and a little bit chaotic because have you guys ever been to like an open marketplace in any part of the world? It can be a little crazy, specifically when it's like, in the morning when you got like the businesses are going there, you got the real, and everyone's like yelling at each other trying to buy something. No one's lining up. It's just nature of interesting marketplace, open marketplaces. They can be congested and chaos, right? Due to just the number of sheer number of vendors, or of course the sheer number of people shopping, right? So now when you picture rune tokens, right? The runes token the runes protocol, they're more of like a well organized artisan fair, right? And basically, that's kind of like having each booth meticulously arranged, and of course, label for easy navigation. Ever been to one of those artisan fairs where you see like the names and the numbers are specifically on top of the table? You can see which booth is basically which artisan and their name, like from like 20 meters away. That's the big difference, right? So unlike the crowded marketplace of, ordinals, BRC20 ordinals, runes fair would be like, they'd offer more of a streamlined and more of an efficient experience. And this really allows both the vendors and the customers to interact seamlessly, right? So just like visitors to the fair, they can really appreciate, like, of course, the craftsmanship and the attention to detail to each of, like, say, the artisan's work, like the pottery or the painting. And of course, the users of Room's protocol, they can also benefit from its simplicity and the elegance in token creation and management. So, like in my market and artisan fair analogy, hopefully you understand that Bitcoin ordinals, they basically represent like the early stage of tokenization of the Bitcoin blockchain, considering the fact that they came out, many months ago. And they're characterized by more of a complex and congested way of tokenizing assets on Bitcoin. While when you compare this to Rune's protocol, they technically have emerged during that halving as more of a refined way, more of a user-friendly alternative. And this really paves the way for more of an accessible and, of course, more inclusive digital economy. Now, if you dive a little bit deeper, if I get a little bit technical, I'll try not to get too technical, but we have to understand that while both runes and ordinals, they both aim to, of course, enhance tokenization on Bitcoin blockchain layer one, they really employ distinctive approaches to that specific goal. So ordinals BRC20, they focus on inscribing unique content onto, of course, the small unit of Bitcoin called Satoshis, right? And this basically creates non-fungible tokens, NFTs, right? So, but in comparing to Runes, in contrast with it, Runes protocol, they basically prioritize simplicity and, of course, efficiency by operating on that native Bitcoin UTXO model, right? And the model basically integrates naturally, of course, into Bitcoin's existing infrastructure, considering that Bitcoin is a UTXO-based blockchain, right? That's the model they use to run their blockchain. And that basically minimizes network congestion as a whole. And it's just a lot more efficient, a lot more optimal in terms of performance-wise. So I guess you could explain it like, the old versus new, but like there's just two different ways of doing things. I'll bet, yes, there are advantages. So you do understand that, of course, both runes and ordinals, they both differ in how they handle like token information. So ordinals store token information directly onto the Bitcoin transaction using, of course, SegWit data to encode all the NFT data. So that approach is a little bit more complicated, and it's better for, I guess you could say it's better for like more specific purposes, like stuff like, creating unique digital assets, on the Bitcoin blockchain, etc. But like compared to like Runes protocol, Runes basically store all the token information on the chain itself, right? So it doesn't utilize a SegWit. Basically, what does utilize is the OP return output to really encode all the protocol message. That whole process of using the OP return output, it simplifies the whole token transaction. And that basically just makes it a lot, you just have so much accessibility as a both a user and a developer. So, they're different. Of course, they also differ in how they impact the Bitcoin ecosystem. So you can kind of see like ordinals, they really add more of a, I guess you could say artistic and more of a collectible flair in terms of value to the Bitcoin ecosystem through, of course, and they create NFTs, right? However, the runes protocols, they more focus more of like just simplicity, right? And for tokenization. So that distinction, I think it really reflects like that diverse needs and of course the preferences of both us users and developers alike in the whole Bitcoin community. Now you have options, now you're not stuck with one, the MacBook Air. You can actually choose from between the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, or maybe that's a bad analogy. I guess you should choose between like MacBook Air 13-inch and 15-inch. Probably have a better idea. So you do have more options now that Rune Protocols is available. But you might be thinking, okay, William, why are you doing this educational AMA on this? Why is it relevant? Why do I even need to know about this Runes protocol? I'm not into Bitcoin, or even if I am into Bitcoin, I'm not interested in making all these like tokenized fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens, wherever. I just want the underlying asset. Well, let's try to understand why Runes protocol is so relevant and why it will bring tons of cash to the Bitcoin ecosystem. So, just to kind of save you from a lot of like painstakingly trying to understand me trying to like explain a technical perspective, I'm going to give you an analogy because I just think it's just easier to understand, and I don't want to overwhelm you guys from trying to like understand like the how relevant this is from a technical standpoint. So let's imagine again that you're basically navigating some kind of really thick forest, whatever, some deep forest in your country. If you don't have a deep forest in your country, that's fine. You went on vacation, you went somewhere with a deep forest, okay? And there's lots of different paths in these forests, right? And of course, different paths leads to different destinations in the forest. One goes to waterfall, one goes to the beach, one goes to a cave of bears, which probably wouldn't want to choose from. So each of these paths, they basically represent a different blockchain protocol. All right. So let's just understand that each path are different blockchain protocols, and they all offer their basically own sets of advantages and of course challenges, right? So among all these paths, the Runes protocol, they basically it's more of like a well-marked trail. Turn left, turn right, 200 meters ahead. Careful of rocks, right? And it basically has signposts all over saying, "Be careful of tigers. Be careful of the puddles. Don't all fall off. There's anacondas in the water, right?" And basically, it smoothly guides you through the wilderness, regardless how dangerous the path is. And unlike some other protocols, basically the other paths in this forest, they basically might lead you to dead ends or dangerous terrain, or what I mentioned earlier, led you to a cave of bears, which you probably wouldn't want to go, right? But Runes, the protocol, it's like the path where it offers you a very clear, a really reliable route, and it just ensures that you can reach your desired destination with as minimal hassle as possible. So it's kind of like just as well, it's like a well-maintained trail, right? Or it's really easy for the traveler to explore the forest and, discover potential hidden treasures. So, but hopefully that's a good analogy. But basically, the Runes protocol, it really simplifies the whole tokenization process. And if you're not a developer, like this stuff, tokenization, especially BRC20, and you can kind of see it another perspective from BRC20. Like when it first came out, it was so big and popular on Bitcoin, and it became so popular in Avalanche. But to be honest, like me specifically, I work in the Web3 industry, and as much as I had to like dive deep and understand it, I did not see it being like adopted like ridiculously crazy into the other layer ones and all not. So because it's not I wouldn't say the word efficient, but I would say that it's unnecessary complex compared to just taking advantage of Ethereum's NFTs and just minting NFTs on Ethereum, or even better, minting them on Solana because it's so much cheaper, right? So if you have those two options and mint NFTs on Solana, or if you want a little more expensive or option on Ethereum as ERC, 751, then why would you make BRC20 Bitcoin Ordinal NFTs? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, right? So that's why I thought, like, okay, there was really interesting how, like, Avalanche started having BRC 20 like ordinals in BRC20 form, like basically ordinals, but it didn't really take off beyond that. And now that we have Runes, a lot more simpler and much more efficient way to really have a lot more accessibility for those who are not developers. And even if you are a developer, you really want to pull your heads out and simplify things. So I really do think that it's Runes protocol, it really is going to be the future in how we're going to tokenize things, especially if the tokenization is going to happen on Bitcoin for whatever good reasons. I mean, you can tokenize things on other blockchains, but considering right now Bitcoin is the only one that's really gaining mainstream adoption, why not? Let's just stick to what's secure and simple in that regard. All right. So, of course, that the Runes protocol, it also addresses a lot of critical challenges, faced with, tokenizing standards on the Bitcoin blockchain. So, like, one of the key challenges in tokenizing using Runes protocols on Bitcoin is basically network congestion. And because when you create unnecessary UTXOs, you can pretty much increase transaction fees and slow down the processing times for those transactions quite a bit. For those who may not have been paying attention, I don't know if you guys are aware, but like because of the Runes protocol, gas fee has increased by I think it was like 300x. It's crazy. Just for a short period, but that was just right after halving, because that's when Runes protocol was deployed. It became available, and gas fees are crazy. They were crazy for that like little while, and and Bitcoin's gas fees are really expensive. Who the heck would want to pay 300x times more for the gas fee itself? So that is one of the challenges. But I think that's always going to be a challenge for Bitcoin. I mean, like, it's a give and take, right? If you want you want to own the asset with the biggest market cap, with the most reliable ones, or the most decentralized ones, with miners all the way around the world, then sure. And you want to tokenize assets on that specific most safest.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Blockchain, then I guess you'll have to pay the extra gas fees, that refund. But of course, I think that was kind of like that 300x in gas fee was kind of like it's a what's the word I'm looking for? Too much coffee. It's a black swan event, right? So it's not going to happen all the time. People just rush into it because it's a new thing. But I don't think that's going to be the norm. I think that we've kind of the whole FOMO has gone. The FUD is gone. People are they calm down. They understand that Runes, it is what it is now. But I think that over time, this is going to bring in a lot of money for the Bitcoin blockchain. That being said, the Runes protocol, it also offers a very simplified way to the whole process of tokenization blockchain. And I think that's really going to attract a lot of developers in the ecosystem. So for those who are learning, say, Solidity to build on Ethereum, or any other programming languages like Rust and whatnot, then I think they might be even attracted to building on Bitcoin in the future, because there's just so much opportunities and work involved now that we have Runes protocol available to build on the Bitcoin blockchain, right? So that this whole accessibility aspect of the Runes blockchain, Runes protocol, it's really essential. You gotta understand, it's essential for the adoption for Bitcoin, not only as a layer one, but just as a community itself, right? And once you have a bigger developer community, I think right now what Ethereum, Solana is pretty much dominating that respects, running out Cardano or something. But once you have more innovation on Bitcoin community, I think that really encourages a lot of experimentation, of course, collaboration as well between different projects. And that's just going to drive more and more money involved. All right. So actually, I have so much more information, but I don't want to put you guys to sleep. So I'm just going to jump into the next section. All right. My next section is, of course, how this really impacts the Bitcoin ecosystem and the whole fundamentals of Bitcoin. So for those, okay, before I give you my analogy and how this my answer, I for one personally, I'm not really big into Bitcoin, to be honest. I'm not a Bitcoin OG. I'm more into Ethereum, Solana, the other stuff that you can actually build like interesting stuff on, because Bitcoin has and before Bitcoin ordinals came out, it has always been more of like a way to medium of exchange where you can actually like send people funds, money, and of course like store value, where you can actually like make sure that the value of your money doesn't like depreciate over time, so you can hedge against inflation and whatnot, right? So to me, that Bitcoin has always been those two things: a medium of exchange and a store of value. But now we have Bitcoin ordinals, of course, that came out months ago. Bitcoin ordinals, BRC20, but now Runes protocol. I think this really changes the whole landscape. I think Bitcoin is more than just a medium exchange and a store of value, because like anything can be like a medium exchange, right? If you want to send money to your friends, you can send like Ethereum layer 1, you can send Ethereum on Optimism, you can send them Solana, you can send them USDT. There's so many mediums of exchange. Why the heck would you send someone Bitcoin? It just doesn't make sense, right? But it's, don't get me wrong, I think Bitcoin's a really good store of value long term, right? It's like digital gold in that respect. But now that we have Runes protocol, I think that has elevated the whole Bitcoin ecosystem into something much more. Yeah, I guess you could like justify saying that Bitcoin is a lot more as an ecosystem because you had BRC20, Bitcoin ordinals, but I didn't buy that when it came out. Like I remember I was writing like I was writing like one of the a press release for Bitcoin ordinals, and how like XE was adding like a whole bunch of like avalanche Bitcoin ordinals onto the exchange. And I was just reading about like technology. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is cool, it's interesting, but like I don't see how this is going to be like, this is going to be just that useful. I don't see this is going to be an interesting thing because it's new. But that's it. It has its novelty. Once novelty wears off, where is this going to go, right? But with Runes protocol, I think this really is a big game changer. It's really going to, it really emerges more like, I guess you can see it as like a way to add a whole new layer of value. So I'm going to give you an analogy because I just think these analogies are so much easier to understand compared to just giving you a very technical explanation why it's so relevant and how it impacts Bitcoin's fundamentals. Because like I said, last thing I want to do is put you guys to sleep, right? So let's imagine again, all right? So Bitcoin, the whole ecosystem it's like an ocean this time, okay? It's a huge ocean, it's Atlantic Ocean, whichever ocean that you're living close to, has a whole bunch of fish, a whole bunch of like coral reefs. It's basically teeming with life, okay? And this is basically the ocean where each cryptocurrency project, it represents a very unique species in the ocean, right? So Bitcoin, the largest and the most prominent inhabitant, it really serves as, of course, the foundation of the whole ecosystem, right? It provides stability, of course, sustenance to everyone who lives in the ocean. Of course, when you're navigating this ocean, it can be quite challenging, right? You got like volatile currents, and you got complex obstacles, right? And in the whole ecosystem. So when you have Runes protocol, it's kind of like a lighthouse, right? And it guides like various different ships, big or small. Of course, these ships like the cryptocurrency project, it guides these cryptocurrency projects through turbulent waters in the Bitcoin blockchain. I guess you can put it that way. So it's kind of similar how like a lighthouse illuminates the paths for sailors and ships. Runes basically illuminates the paths for developer and us users. And basically, it offers us a really clear, very clear, and very efficient, simple way to tokenize tokens and transfer them, right? So when you have this whole huge, this beacon of light, right? You basically enhance navigational capabilities, right? Basically, where us as users, we can navigate the Bitcoin ecosystem a lot more better, and it really empowers us into not only explore the blockchain layer 2 ecosystem as well as the Runes protocol or even BRC20. That's fine. So I think this is a much more better way to really open up and really explore the whole ecosystem as a whole. If you understand the analogy as Bitcoin as an ocean, right? So basically, it's really profound. It really is. I think Runes protocols, the implication of it for the whole Bitcoin ecosystem is just big, huge, and fundamental dynamics. I wouldn't say the same as Bitcoin ordinals, BRC20s, because that was a cool thing, but like it just didn't make sense if you could just like make your NFTs on Solana or even Ethereum. It's just why on Bitcoin? It's just expensive like hell, right? But I do think that one of the key impacts is going to be able to allow Bitcoin to expand its user base, and as the protocol, it really enables various projects to really issue of various different fungible tokens directly on the Bitcoin blockchain. I think that could really lead to huge adoptions for Bitcoin. Now we do see the Bitcoin spot ETFs already like just sucking in so much money. I think it was just Fidelity that just got like what millions, tens of millions of dollars just like the last 24 hours. It's insane. Props to Fidelity, the spot Bitcoin ETF, are getting so much liquidity by huge companies out there. This is going to keep continuing, guys. With like Runes protocol, this is just like another way to just suck in so much liquidity for Bitcoin. My views on Bitcoin has changed. So like I would actually be considering buying as a way to just as a store of value, actually, especially in the next like bear market, or the next 6-7 years, because this really does change the fundamentals of Bitcoin. I really do think so. This really offers like a really simple, user-friendly way to, of course, tokenize everything compared to BRC20, right? So I think it's going to accelerate mainstream adoption. Considering the fact that we already have like Bitcoin like spot ETFs, I think this is going to accelerate a lot faster. I think it will also take like at least a few months for people to really, a lot of projects out to really figure out if they really want to build on Runes, using Runes protocol for their fungible tokens. But I think it's going to take at least 2-3 months for us to really start like recovering from all the whole Bitcoin halving. Considering the fact the whole hash rate for Bitcoin hasn't really dipped, it's kind of weird because every single Bitcoin halving we've had in the past, hash rate has dipped. People disconnect their mining machines, the ASIC machines, and they sell it to someone else, or they just wrap up and close shop and they've made enough Bitcoins, whatever. But it's kind of interesting how like the halving this time we didn't experience that, guys. The hash rate did not dip. It actually increased. So you kind of have to imagine that, okay, so these miners out there, big or small, they've actually were prepared for this long ago. They probably bought the new ASIC mining machines way in advance. They disconnected their old machines way in advance. They downclocked their firmware. They downclocked their ASIC machines, so they're running more optimally, efficiently in advance. I think it's just insane because we normally see all these machines just starting going offline, but no, the hash rate is powerful and strong, and it's actually more than before. So I do not see us being going sideways for 6 months. That's just ridiculous. I think it's going to be a very short, maybe 2-3 months. Well, I'll have to see another, I need a few more weeks to really see if we're really gonna, if we're really going sideways for a little bit shorter and long. But I think Runes protocol, as well as the spot Bitcoin ETFs, and how far we're going right now with this, I think and the amount of adoption we have protocol so far, I think it's not going to take 6 months. There's no way. There's no way. I'm thinking a few months. I'm putting my money down in the next few months. I'm betting some of my friends, but definitely keep this in mind because the spot Bitcoin ETFs are not the only ones that's going to really accelerate Bitcoin adoption now. So if you understand that and how the big relevance and how Runes protocol is really impacting the Bitcoin ecosystem, you might want to consider, your understanding and your positions in Bitcoin if you don't have any already. All right. So last but not least, you might be thinking, okay, so I'm hyped, William. You sold me out. I'm interested in Bitcoin now, even though I wasn't, just like you. What is next for the Bitcoin ecosystem? Right? Like there's a lot of new things. What's going on? What should I expect in the future? Okay. Well, I do think this is really bright. I think we're the cusp. We are early in this bull market. So buying, like even if you buy Bitcoin right now, I mean, sure, you could probably think like, you'll be making a lot more if you buy altcoins, but like, money is going to go into Bitcoin first. So why don't you just buy Bitcoin, at least a small portion of your position in it, and then you can always sell it off to buy your altcoins later, right? Just maximize, time for it to help you make the most profitable swaps, right? So that being said, I think that one of the key developments in the near future of Bitcoin is really direct trading between users. I think this is going to be big because this could really minimize, of course, the reliance on various centralized entities in the Web3 ecosystem. This really solves like various problems. In terms of, we call it RBF. You might not be familiar with it. It's called replace by fee issue. And basically, when we facilitate peer-to-peer transactions, sending funds directly to someone, what basically happens is the runes protocol, it gives the users, the average retail trader, or even just like average investor, the power. They really empower us to really transact directly with each other. And this really enhances the whole decentralized aspect and of course the self-sovereignty of the whole of Bitcoin ecosystem, right? I do think that we do have a very interesting Bitcoin improvement proposal. I think it was proposed by someone called OP Cat. I think that was really interesting. It's BIP 420, if you're wondering which one I'm talking about. And I think this proposal is really unique because it basically enables bridges through rune tokens to different layer 2 networks. So for those who might be paying attention to the last few months, layer 2 Bitcoin is a thing, guys. I always thought Stacks was, I think they have a very good fundamental analysis. I was really looking forward to how Stacks, as a Bitcoin layer 2 project, is going to develop. But now what do we have? Like we have Core, we have like that other one I just can't put my finger on. Like we have like a whole bunch of like new layer 2 Bitcoin networks just popping out of nowhere, guys. And this is just like pretty recent. I think Core just came out like 8 months ago, like 9 months ago or something like that. Like Stacks is like, it's been working. The project has been existing for the last few years, right? Even Stacks was available last bull market. So that being said, when you actually have a new Bitcoin improvement proposal, the BIP 420, allowing liquidity to flow from one layer 2 to another Bitcoin layer 2, that's massive, guys. So for those who might remember when like Arbitrum and Optimism, those tokens came out, do you remember how much of a pain in the ass was to actually move like liquidity from one to another? There was no way, guys. You actually had to move your funds back to your exchange and then withdraw it again, or you had to use like move it to like layer 1 Ethereum and then move your assets back to another layer 2 from Ethereum, which cost so much money back then, right? So I think these bridges between like layer 2 Bitcoin networks, I think that's going to be a thing. I really do look forward the BIP 420 to really get accepted. And if it does, I think this is massive for layer 2 Bitcoin networks, Stacks and Core or whatever the other ones are. Right, I have no doubt there's going to be a whole bunch of new like layer 2 Bitcoin networks in the future. So that's something to definitely look into. Though I do think that Stacks does, of course, they're the first pioneering layer 2 Bitcoin network out there, and so they do have an upper hand since they've been working on their freaking project for so long. And they have that new upgrade coming, like was it very shortly, the Nakamoto upgrade. That's going to be huge for Stacks. So considering the fact you don't have to wait for 10 minutes for the block to go through anymore for the transaction. I remember like making transaction of Stacks just takes forever, right? But soon it won't. It's going to be really fast. It's gonna feel like a really a scalable solution for Bitcoin because transactions are going to take like seconds, right? So that's something to really look forward to. I also think that BRC20 ordinals are gonna, they're in a decline, because I think runes are just gonna suck a lot of liquidity out of ordinals. That being said, I do think we're gonna see a whole shift in the Bitcoin dynamics in that respect. We're gonna see like a whole bunch of Bitcoin ordinals projects probably gonna migrate to runes. I have no doubt. I have no idea which products are going to do it, but I have no doubt that sooner or later it's going to do it. Some projects are going to migrate their Bitcoin ordinals to runes because it's just simplicity, right? You want to streamline things, and it's just better in that respect. So, I'm looking forward to that happening. I think that the whole ecosystem can be a lot more user friendly. I think being sooner or later we're going to be able to own Bitcoin on layer twos, and we don't have to worry about like $15 gas fees or waiting for 10 minutes to make sure that your wallet actually received the funds, because that's the worst when you send like hundreds of dollars, $1,000, or 10,000, or I don't know, hundreds of $1,000s, to your wallet, and you want to make sure that you receive the funds, safely, because what if you accidentally did like press a button by accident, and you change the address or something, or the fat finger issue, and you're waiting for 10 minutes just making sure that your transaction was successful. But considering the fact it takes 10 minutes for your transaction go through a Bitcoin, because it takes 10 minutes per block, it's stressful waiting for that. So so imagine that. I really do think that a lot of people are going to be holding Bitcoin on these new layer two Bitcoin ecosystems soon enough, because people want Bitcoin as a store of value. They just don't want to suffer through waiting for multiple blocks of confirmation, because multiple blocks, 3 blocks is 30 minutes, guys. Do you really want to wait 30 minutes to making sure that a big chunk of your savings is actually safe? That's so stressful. I remember doing that for the first time so many years ago. It's just not fun, right? So I do think that that's going to be one of the big reasons why all these new layer two Bitcoin ecosystems are going to have a blast. They're going to have so much liquidity moving into it, considering that they are built on Bitcoin, and they're going to be able to hold Bitcoin, and how big each Bitcoin, by the time, I don't know, a decade later, they're like more than 200,000, 300,000 US dollars for one coin. That's just going to be so much money on these layer two Bitcoin networks, guys. So that's something really to look forward to. I hopefully that gives you a better understanding, a better perception, or the way you can now see like a little bit further into the future and how interesting the Bitcoin ecosystem is becoming. I myself, I was never into Bitcoin. I just thought it was a little bit boring, but I'm actually pretty excited considering that we have Runes protocol, because this really does changes the game. It really changes the fundamentals of Bitcoin. So if you're a big person in Ethereum and what it can deliver, you might want to look at Bitcoin now, because it's a thing. Hey, you can tokenize things, fungible tokens on it, even non-fungible tokens. Bitcoin's a thing now. So once we have these layer two layer ones coming out, just think of it that way. Remember back in the days when we had like no Ethereum layer twos out properly, and everyone was moving their liquidity, like when 2020 DeFi summer, to Binance Smart Chain. I think that's what it's called, BSC chain, and to BEP20s, because Ethereum like gas fees were like $80 for one transaction. It was so stressful, guys. Everyone was using like Binance Smart Chain. Everyone was using like PancakeSwap, and the reason being is nobody wants to pay $80 for just a regular transaction fee, and that's when you're lucky. Because remember, back in the days, like when you were, if you just transact without trying to hit a lower GUI price, like it's easily hit more than $100 for one transaction. But with these new Bitcoin layer twos, this is gonna really open up to Bitcoin as like a blockchain that functions like Ethereum. So I'm really looking forward to this, and considering the fact that Bitcoin has so much more a bigger market cap than Ethereum, the implications of these layer two Bitcoin networks is enormous. Guys, you have to understand. Okay, I'm looking at coin market cap right now. Bitcoin has 1.3. What is this? 1.3 trillion market cap, and Ethereum has 396 billion. Dude, Bitcoin dwarfs Ethereum by that's like more than what is that, like 4x the amount. And now that we have layer twos really being much more functional with Rune's protocol, this is humongous. So if you're not into Bitcoin, like I'm saying, if you're not into Bitcoin because it just doesn't do what Ethereum does, you gotta look into Bitcoin right now. Like I actually would love to like sell a whole bunch of my Ethereum, start buying Bitcoin in the next bear market. That's how far I think that Bitcoin is going to really become a lot more exponential, because it's going to be able to take it has so much more use cases now. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one.